You know, I've been a prosecutor, a defense attorney, and here on Law and Crime, and no matter how many times I hear this about people being shot in the back of their head and the kids being drowned, it's always horrifying. So I'd like to bring in, to discuss this case, Dr. Flanagan, who was the medical examiner there talking about the injuries, our medical examiner for today's show, and that's Dr. Priya Banerjee. She is an assistant medical examiner in Rhode Island. She's board certified, and she's here for the first time on the Law and Crime Network. Welcome, Dr. Priya, if I may call you that.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So let me tell you, the medical examiner here just said that the mom, the victim, Brandy Peters, had 8 wounds, but probably 7 gunshot wounds. One would have been a re-entry of the bullet. But she really died from the blunt force trauma to the brain. Could you tell me why the gunshot wounds would not have killed her, but the brain would have? And does that take time?
I think that's a great point. So she shot quite a bit, but when you look at where she was shot and what was injured, the ones to the head really didn't penetrate deep enough to injure the brain. The few to the chest that injured the lung, that would take seconds to minutes to bleed out. So you still have an interval where she might be dazed because of the trauma to the head. She might be subdued, but they're not lethal in and of themselves. And so I presume that's why they had to go to such lengths to then kill her. The blunt force trauma to the head also really was the last steps, and that's why she died from that.
And that's a horrible thought. Gigi Gonzalez. Hello, Gigi. You were first on Law and Crime with me your first time also. So great to have you anytime. Gigi, this now paints, as Dr. Priya says, a horrible picture that she could be fighting for her children's life, fighting for her life for a period of time. And finally, when she is dazed, confused, bleeding out, weak, she gets hit on the head in the final coup de grace, if you want, and her brain is injured and she dies. It paints a horrible picture, doesn't it?
Absolutely horrible. And it goes to the person who did this being so motivated to make sure that she goes down and stays down. They shot at her multiple times, 7, 8 times. And when that didn't put her down, they took, some sort of instrument and bludgeoned her head with it. That tells me that this person was frustrated and wanted her down.
Well, I tell you, whatever the two of you have painted the closing, I think, for the prosecution. Gigi Gonzalez, you are in Florida. Now, let me just ask you this. Last week, when we heard that statement, I was on with Gene Rossi and Stanley King. And Stanley, who's of African-American descent, just cracked up. And I said, well, I think it's kind of racist because I don't think there's many men who would kill, whether they be white, black, green, purple, yellow, or multicolored, and kill anyone over child support of $20,000. But then again, there could be. So do you think this was a good move for the attorney, or do you think that was just like a throwaway line?
I think it was a good move because you're drawing to this truth within the culture. There are a lot of Black men who are on child support, and for anybody to just kill over that, especially over something that's prevalent within the community, it goes to the defense's point that they don't have to be killing over $20,000 worth in child support, especially when he already had a $20,000.
But Gigi, let me interrupt you. Come play devil's advocate. There's also anybody of any descent who has child support. It can be a motive, though, can't it?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're drawing to that conclusion, there's, white men aren't going to commit crimes over child support, Asian men, Hispanic men, what have you. What the defense is trying to make a point too is that this is common enough within that culture that they don't have to be killing people over this.
Okay, so let me bring Dr. Priya Banerjee in. You, again, a board-certified forensic pathologist in Rhode Island as an assistant state medical examiner. When there is a homicide, you're called to the scene and you see the children, the 3 children, and you see the victim, Brandy Peters, with this overkill. What, as a medical examiner, comes to your mind?
Well, I mean, it's a horrific crime when you have 4 individuals dead, 3 of them just defenseless children. But I think, separating yourself from the emotion, you really have to just analyze the patterns and how they're found. I mean, the 3 kids are stacked in the bathtub.
Is it up close and personal? Is this an up close and personal crime?
Oh, very much so. So you know that she not only was shot, she meaning Brandy was shot 8 times or 7, potentially 8, given the reentry, but you know that she was beaten and she fought back. You know that she has broken fingernails, torn webbing, broken fingers. That is a fight, you know? And sadly, I think the innocence of the kids is fitting in a way where they don't fight back in that sense. They're innocent, and I think they're startled by, you know, by being harmed. It's not uncommon to see that in a, you know, pediatric homicide, a child, versus, you know, a mom and a woman who is obviously fighting for her own life, but also, you know, her kids' lives.
Horrible thought. And we're going to take that horrible thought to break. Stay with us here on the Law and Crime Network. We'll be right back.